Don't you think it's about time for a podcast that's more fulfilling? One that's about the vibrant exchange of ideas and perspectives that happens when we actually come together. We got you covered. Welcome to the Deep Blue Project, where the depths of conversation meet the waves of personal experience. This is a real, raw, and unscripted show about everything from leadership lessons to self-awareness, wellness, and the latest current events. We cover it all. We have a rotating cast of guests as we share our personal stories, insights, and opinions on the issues that matter most. Plus, we have a blast while doing it. The Deep Blue Project. It's not just a podcast, it's an experience. And now your host, Chris Workman.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Deep Blue Project. I am excited today to have a good friend of mine, Vincent Scotto. He's a retired NYPD officer. Vin and I got together and speaking to each other on LinkedIn a little while back. We discussed a lot of things offline. We text each other. We talk. So, we know a little bit more about each other than the common person. I would say that. But even though we do, I'm going to allow Vin to kind of introduce himself and tell you a little about, what he's doing now, what he's done before, and then we'll get into a lot of the things that Vin's been doing since he retired and so on and so forth. So, hey, Vin, welcome to the Deep Blue Project, my friend.
Thank you, Chris. I'm so grateful. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. And I was looking forward to this, and I'm finally glad it came to fruition. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, unfortunately, things come up and we had to push this off a couple times, but I'm glad that we finally got together and we're able to kind of kick this off. I know people are going to really enjoy it. Vin has a great personality. He likes to talk. He likes to laugh. So we have fun talking about some crazy stuff. We'll try not to get too crazy on you today, but you never know. You never know. So, Vin, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your law enforcement career and working with NYPD?
Sure. Before we get started, is it okay that we tell the audience I call you Haas? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. You're good. Yeah, yep. He does call me Haas, that's for sure.
There's a backstory to that, but we'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we might get into that later. Yeah, no, we'll see.
So I retired from New York City Police Department in 2012. I came on in 1992. So I did 20 years with the New York City Police Department. My whole time was in Manhattan, New York City. And you and I had gotten connected, like you said, on LinkedIn, because probably a little bit over a year ago, I started putting myself out there in the mental wellness space / advocacy, if you will, space for first responders. And I started getting into what they refer to as law enforcement coaching. I started working with some officers throughout the country in a coaching capacity. And in essence, this is something I've kind of been doing throughout my whole life, and especially with the New York City Police Department, in small snippets, being very open and honest with my own stuff, if you will, and always trying to have good communication with other cops, whether it be supervisors or colleagues in any capacity. And what I learned as I got more mature with my police career, it came even more natural because I had more experience. And I guess for lack of a better expression, because I know it's used a lot, I guess I became a little bit of a mentor in a way for some of the younger officers, where they were able to come and talk to me because I was very straightforward. So I take pride in that. I took pride in that.
Yeah, you should. I mean, so let's clear this up. Yes, Vince from New York, and I am from the Philadelphia area. And you would think, how does a New York guy and a Philly guy kind of chat each other? Because we don't look at it that way. Because even though we look at it that way, we're still brothers in arms in what we do and what we've done in our lives. So that's kind of what brings us together. So I think one of the greatest things that we talk about a lot of times, Vince, so everybody knows, is that point. I mean, being able to be that mentor and being able to look into what your own vulnerabilities are is really what is key to all this. So what kind of, led you to that point where you felt you wanted to get into that coaching area and reach out to others as you were still in the department before you got out and started doing what you're doing?
So it's kind of two parts. Back when I had got promoted to a supervisor, I was going through a divorce. And it was a very difficult time in my life. And it was the first time in my life where I really felt like I had some adversity, like serious adversity. I really got lost. Prior to that, things kind of came easy to me. I was always pretty confident and I pretty much knew the direction I was going in. And when this happened, it really, really took me for a loop. My children, I have three children. At the time, they were very young. And I went from this family nucleus of a wife and three children to me being on my own half the time, on my own, and only seeing my family, my children, half the time. So, like every other day and every other weekend. And for lack of a better expression, Chris, it was devastating. So, I share that because I needed to figure this out and I couldn't do it alone. And at the time, I had never spoke to anyone professionally or within the department about any of this. Just like I think today, when they refer to the stigma, it still exists and it definitely existed then. This was 2007. And I was not comfortable speaking to anyone professionally. But what happened, it got so bad, Chris, where I needed some serious intervention. I've said this before. I was literally circling the drain, and I was 35 years old, and I was lost. And thankfully, by the grace of God and some people in my life, I was initially referred to a program that is outside the purview of the police department, and the program had peer support personnel. They were retired police officers, some were active, and I was connected with a retired police officer who at least started the process of me being able to at least share some of these difficult times and the struggles and what I was going through. But I needed more.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or another, I was referred through that program to a clinician that worked with the police department. And I was assigned basically to that clinician, where I was going to see him numerous times a week. I was put on mood altering medication, to get my serotonin levels right. And this was something I was unaware of,
Right.
about how the serotonin levels can affect your mood and your personality and your emotions in general. So this was all new to me, and it was very uncomfortable. And you start questioning yourself, like how did I allow myself to get to this point? And listen, I own it.
Mm-hmm.
I look back on my life in those times, and on one hand, I'm grateful for the fact that I needed to kind of go through those difficult times to get where I am now. But I could also look back and own some of the mistakes I made, which took time. It took a lot of self-work to get past that. So that was when I realized, you know what, I feel that I should try to do something with this in some capacity. So at the time, I was still active with the police department. And once I was able to kind of get back on my feet, I always used those moments, those times when I was struggling. I always remembered how it felt and some of the things that I was going through and being on the other side of it, to be able to share some of that information. And I didn't mind doing that. At that point, I wasn't afraid. I felt, you know what, if I can help another person by sharing a little bit of my story and being a good person, like a sounding board, if you will, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's important. It's kind of like that pay it forward kind of way of thinking.
Right.
Now, fast forward, this happened again, but even deeper. I was removed from the police department at this point, and I was in a relationship post marriage. It was a long term relationship, and we had blended families, and things went sideways. Now,
Mm-hmm.
mind you, My three children don't need me as much. They're older and now I'm off the job. So now I don't have the stress of the job per se, but guess what else I don't have? I don't have that sense of purpose. I don't have that camaraderie piece. I don't have that, if you want to call it, distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really, really fell into a deep depression. And Chris, when I tell you, it hit me like a Mack truck. And I was older at this point. I was about, I think, 45 years old. So it's roughly 10 years after, give or take. And this is when I really feel I hit my rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God I have a very good family. My mother and father, my sister played an integral role in identifying that I needed intervention, I needed help, and they went to work and they got me in a program where it was like a group therapy program where I was part of this group, people of all walks of life, men, women, young, old, everything in between, all economic standings. And it started to get me back on the road to recovery because now they're looking at me and it's like, here's this former professional police person that, has a certain look, seems like everything is kind of squared away, and he's struggling with stuff. They felt strength that I was able to not only talk about what I was going through, some of the experiences I had, I was listening to them. I was sharing some of my personal story and some of the things that I had learned along the way and kind of what brought me back into that tough place. And I became almost like a mentor. And they didn't even realize that they were helping me because it was giving me strength because now I have this sense of purpose again. I'm paying it forward again. And it really, really was a tremendous thing. And I can't stress this enough. I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm not an active churchgoer, but I believe in a higher power. And after that happened, I said to myself, I need to do something with this. I have this unique way of being very direct and real. And I don't think I'm necessarily an empathetic person, but there's something within me in certain circumstances where I really could be a good listener and I'm trying to be better. Like with what I'm doing now with the coaching, they call it active listening. It's not easy, but I feel I'm getting better. And that was one of the first times where I felt I was in an environment where I was able to do more active listening. Because as you know, us as police, we don't have time in a lot of cases to sit back, listen, and really hear the whole story. We have to make sometimes really quick decisions, and that radio is chirping, and we have to go from problem, solution in real quick fashion. And as you know, sometimes that carries over into your personal life, and that's another issue
Right.
that we can break down.
Yeah. No, I think one of the most important parts of what you said is just for our listeners to realize, because a lot of times we talk about what we deal with now or what we've been dealing with on the job and what we do. But I think you touched on a very important point. And that point is when you were out and you didn't have that sense of purpose or that support, because people sometimes don't realize like that's what we fall back on. And I think we're going to get into that in a few minutes because we do talk about that a lot, that a lot of the problems that we have and a lot of the stressors that we take on at this job, sometimes the job is the issue because we fall back on that. We fall back into that old routine in order to put that stuff away and to not handle it the right way. So I think in talking about your part, which is great, is like when it was, I don't want to say it's great for you because you had to go through that,
Yeah.
but it's a great thing for our listeners and people who are outside of the job now and people who didn't have that, who are facing some of these realities and are having to deal with these things after they're out and they don't have those resources anymore. I think it's amazing for me right now that back when you're talking about when you were on the job that long ago, that you had that because there's a lot of places that still don't have that you had that support, that you
It's
had that
amazing.
peer group. That is amazing to me. That's amazing to me because there's places now, you're talking what? How many years later? There's places that still don't do that for their people. So for you to have that back then, that's a pretty cool thing as far as I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty cool that they were able to supply you with that and not give you that judgment that we talk about with the stigma and everything else that goes on, that you were able to find that
I,
early.
I feel very lucky because when I think about it, Chris, and I'm not ashamed to admit this, so I was 35, so it's 20 years ago. I'm on borrowed time. If you capiche, you know what I mean,
No, I
right?
understand what you're saying. I
I was in
understand what
that
you're saying.
place where I might not have been here,
No, I get it.
and I'm not ashamed of that. Whoever your listeners out there or the people that we connect with, they need to know it doesn't matter where we sit now, where they might be, or anyone else that might be struggling with something. You never know when something just sets you off and you find yourself in that place. And this is a lifelong process. Even though we're doing okay, something can change in our lives and we could find ourselves back in those tough places. And I think what we're doing out here, as far as coming out and talking about it, the communication is the key, because you and I both know there are people out there, they don't feel like they have an outlet. Even if they have a good inner circle, maybe they have people they work with they can rely on. I think sometimes when you can talk to someone that's not directly involved, but can understand where you're at because they walked in your shoes and they have some common thread in terms of maybe it's not the same type of struggle, but it's still a struggle. And they could relate to some of those places when you feel like you're in that deep, dark place. And something else that you brought up that made me think of one of our friends. There's nothing when you leave the job where they do some sort of exit interview to kind of see, well, what's your mental state, your physicality. And the person I'm going to refer to is Liz Pohl. Liz and I had this conversation, and what she's doing some unbelievable things. And we talked about the serotonin level. We talked about how many times that we might have been concussed on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And we never discussed that to see where we're at when we're ready to leave. And you and I both know how that can affect you. Maybe not
Sure.
after you leave, but it could be years later. So not only the people that are active now, but the people that are no longer are active, that now they don't have that camaraderie necessarily. They don't have that sense of purpose. And they're struggling in silence.
Well, the sadness is, I mean, we can just see what's happened over the last few months, and we're talking about Liz, so I'll say in Chicago alone. I mean, they've had a lot of retired officers take their lives. They've taken their own lives because they're just at they have that point where they don't have that. That's the struggle that we find when you don't, you get out of this job and you've put all of your life and you've poured everything that you can into this job, and you leave. Maybe you're leaving it because you're forced out. You don't want to go. You're either aged out, or you got no time, or you're forced out for whatever reason nowadays. And now all of that closeness or camaraderie, as you say, that we rely on for our inner strength, because that's what it is. Quite honestly, we want to talk straight up about it. Our people give us our inner strength. Our friends and our part of our job, that works with firefighters, it works with EMS, it works with anybody else. Your inner strength is within them people you deal with every day. So when that stops and you don't have that, and nobody's ever told you where to go next, unfortunately, some of our brothers and sisters out there who have given their lives to this job are literally giving their lives because they just can't cope. And that's what I think we try to do, and what you try to do, and what Liz and Doug and all of us out here, are trying to do what we do is talk about these things. And hopefully one of these people will hear us and reach out and just say, hey, man, I'm just having a tough time. Hey, I know you guys talk about this. I'm having a tough time. We all know the key to this is, and we talk about this all the time, is you can't force people to be there.
No.
It's like quitting smoking or quitting drinking or quitting whatever. You have to want that for yourself. We can ask and listen to people, as you said, which is, again, same for me. Very tough to do, to sit back and suck it up and just let people talk, because we don't do that. That wasn't what we do, but we're learning to do that.
Yes.
And it being an everyday process is something that you also key on, because if we've been there, and when I had, my point, when I came to my point where I was at the bitter end, or I thought I wasn't going to be able to do anything, that's what helped me, is having somebody just go, hold on, take a deep breath. I've been there. Because the people who haven't been there aren't going to understand that.
Yeah. And you touch on something, and it ties into the accountability piece where, like they say, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink, right? There comes a point, unless it's to the level where they don't have a choice, that person has to make that step. So, for example, when I talk about what happened with me on 2 occasions, Chris, it got to the point when I realized I did not have a choice. My choice was a dire choice. So the only alternative was to let go and say, okay, because I was in that much pain. I did not have any control. And you don't want it to get to that point. I mean, if we're able, as we sit here and we're talking and we're advocating out there, if we're able to penetrate that, get that message out on a large scale, where those people that are either active or on the other side of a career could hear us talking. We walked in their shoes. You're still walking in their shoes. To say, wait a second. These aren't, and no disrespect to clinicians or anyone else out there.
Oh, right.
But we know what it's like, right? So we have that credibility. And we're at a point in our lives where we're still learning, we're still growing, we're evolving, but we've learned some things along the way, some wisdom that we can impart, some things that we could share to help them help themselves. And here's the other thing that I think is tremendous. And we've talked about this offline, and I've talked to Liz about it, talked to Doug White about it, a few other people that I've connected with, that you've connected with. We help each other.
Yeah.
Because guess what? In this space that we're in, it brings us back to some of those difficult times. Even though we're more resilient, we're stronger, we have better tools, it's very easy to get pulled back to a point in our lives that might be a little ugly. And we're human, right? We have days where, hey, I'm not 100%. And we're able to connect with each other, even if it's via text. Hey, how you doing? Maybe I have this uncanny way. I don't know what it is. I make this joke in my house. I tell everyone I'm clairvoyant and they laugh at me. But like, I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago, I think, and I'm like, I just felt like something was a little off, and it wasn't anything major. And we connected. It was just checking in. That would have never happened if I didn't put myself out here and you weren't gracious enough to say, hey, this is a guy that I think's worth connecting with.
Right. Well, I think that's the biggest thing that we talk about when all this is you have to feel comfortable with people to keep that door open. And I say it, if I didn't say it once, I say it 100 times. I do this podcast. This podcast is my therapy. This podcast allows me to continue to talk about things and allows me to bring other people in this space to let them talk about their things so others can hear that they're not alone and they're not by themselves. Like, here's 2 people discussing stuff that has gone on in my life. Like, there's people out there listening and go, wow, that's me right now, or that was me a week ago, or that was me a month ago. We give that opportunity, because I look at things now and go, I waited almost, unfortunately, way too long, because I just didn't know where to turn, because I was bullheaded, because I thought I was in control of everything. You're in control of everything till you're out of control of everything. And
Exactly.
that's the issue that you hit on a great point there also. That's where a lot of us get, and I think people don't realize, is you're at that shit or get off the pot moment. You're at that moment where you call it circle in the drain. And I say it was me walking in circles in my driveway. You're at that point where your mind is trying to make that decision of, how do I stop this? And you have to make that. And what do you do to make that decision about, am I gonna get through this? Am I gonna fight this, or am I gonna allow it to control me?
And it's funny. It's not funny, but you say that, and as you're saying it, I'm putting myself back in a place where I would tell people it's a hamster wheel, and what's going through my head is the should-haves, the could-haves, the would-haves. I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling sadness. I'm going through all these circles of emotions, and I can't sleep. It's waking me up in the middle of the night. I'm sleeping 1 or 2 hours, and you feel like you just don't want to live, Chris. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a terrible thing to feel. And it's even worse when you feel that there's no one there to pick you up off the ground and help you crawl before you walk, before you run. Make no mistake about it, and I know you know this. One day above ground is a good day. It's better than the alternative, regardless of what the circumstances are.
Oh, you're damn right.
You and I both know that. And, it's just a matter of continuing to have these conversations, to be people that are genuine, that we're real, we're authentic, and available for those people out there that need people like us to help them help themselves. And
Most definitely. Most definitely.
that, when I tell you, Chris, and we've talked about this all offline, this feels like a calling where I kind of, because it's, life circumstances. I was very involved with my children, and I was trying to do some other things, but it was always pulling at me, where I finally said, you need to do something about this. And my reservation, and we've talked about this offline,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to get caught up in the people that were disingenuous, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people out there that are taking advantage of our people.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard the anger in my voice, but people like you, people like Liz, other people that I've connected with kind of talked me off the ledge, and it made me realize you got to double down. Use that to fuel the inner fire, because even if it's one person out there that I can connect with and make a difference, that's good work. And it's already happened.
Right.
And I'm sure we do the same thing.
Yeah. And but I think that's one of the cases that we try to tell people, because it's easy to get that way, right? Because we're emotional people. That's what our lives have been. Our lives have been taking care of others. Our lives are about solving the problems. Our lives are about being there when chaos. We're the best when shit's going crazy. We are the best, as long as it ain't our shit.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
As long as it's not our shit, we are freaking awesome.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's so true.
We see that. We see that within each other, and we see that with our people. So the unfortunate thing, there's a book, and people laugh at me because I bring this book up all the time, and they're like, Chris, you bring up this fucking book all the time. I'm like, I read the book, The Courage to Be Happy, and it's totally changed my freaking mindset. Or The Courage to Be Disliked. The Courage to Be Happy was the second one. The Courage to Be Disliked is the first one. Because you can't determine what people do, or who they're going to be, or how they're going to be. And you can't worry about that. You have to worry about you. And it can get you upset, or you can do it, but guess what? They don't care. So you being upset just fuels yourself. It just makes you angry. It just stresses you out. And they could give a shit. They don't care. So using that self for yourself and going, hey, I don't have to worry about that dude. I'd rather talk to Vin, who we can have an intelligent conversation about it, and I understand where he's coming from, and I know he's not going to bullshit me when I talk to him. Why would I even deal with that person? because that's the way they gain that. That's why they gain that popularity. That's why they gain that thing. I call it, it's the same thing as people on Twitter and TikTok and everything else. They say shit just to get a reaction.
Yeah.
They say stuff to make people want to answer them because they feel that that's fuel for their fire. I look at it this way, like, I do me. If you want to listen to my conversation with Vin on the Deep Blue Project and you want to listen to it and you enjoy it and you like it, hey, cool. I love it. You want to call us, you want to talk to us, you want to say hello, you want to get good. You don't like it? Don't freaking listen to it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So,
but if it helps you, if you want to reach out, if you want to talk to us, if you want to talk to anybody that's ever been on this podcast, every single person I know, to a man or woman, has always said, call us, reach out. We have no problem speaking with you. We have no problem listening to you. We have no problem letting you know that you are not by yourself. And that's the authenticity that needs to be done in this realm.
I agree.
And as long as people are doing that, that's who we got. That's who you got to bring into that tribe. That's who you got to be part of your people and let them express that. And that's what we do, and that's what you do, and that's why we all are in the space and doing the good things we're doing.
Yeah, and I believe that you build the credibility with those people, and you've heard me say this, that ripple becomes a tidal wave. I use this other expression, it's a rising tide lifts all boats, right? We lift each other up, and it makes us more powerful as a collective group, because you and I both know you can't do this alone. You need other people that have the right mindset to do what we're trying to accomplish here. And unfortunately, there are agencies out there that are forward thinking, but there's a lot of others that are not. And we've had this conversation. They can't fit their ego through the door. And it's a lot of do as I say, not as I do hypocrisy. And that's dangerous. That is dangerous. And I know that for a fact with the New York City Police Department. I've had conversations with various people within their health and wellness unit, and I'm hoping to do some good things with them this coming spring when I get back from Florida, because they have an epidemic, just like the Chicago Police Department. And I'm not singling those departments out, and I'm not trying to be that guy to start trouble. I'm just trying to address a situation that we need to be better about.
I don't think you are. I think you're just familiar with those, because that's who you're in discussions with.
I think
sometimes people think we're picking on somebody, but if you don't know, you're talking, instead of pulling stuff out of your hat, you're talking about things that you know about, that you experience. It's not calling someone out. It'd be calling somebody out if you were talking about someplace you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So I think you're good there, Vin. I think you're good.
So you said something, Chris, that I wanted to circle back to. There's something that I learned that when it was first presented to me, I said, this is like psychobabble bullshit. I go, what is this? And it was a concept of self-love, that you need to love yourself first before you could be good to anyone else. And when I first heard it, it made no sense to me until it clicked. Like the light bulb went off and I understood it. And I feel, and I think you'll agree with this, the first responder puts everyone else first. When do we put ourselves first? This is not a selfish concept. This is something that I feel is crucial, that if we don't engage in self-care, we can't help anyone. The people that matter most to us, we can't help if it doesn't start with us. And that's something that I needed to learn. And I'm still on that journey. It's not like I'm this, guru where I have all the answers, because I don't. None of us do, right? Because we learn from each other and we're still evolving. Mm-hmm. But maybe we might be a little bit further along the path than some others, and we could offer some very good counsel, offer some clarity, if you will.
We learn all this from each other. I learn more every conversation I have. And a lot of times I give people their due that I've had on this podcast, that I've learned things from on this podcast, that I've learned things from reading their books or talking to them on the phone or texting back and forth. And again, we've been talking about Liz a lot, but Liz, I mean, I've come to know her on here. She has probably become one of my best friends in this world. Like she's another person I can talk to at any time. But she even says, when we talk about things and when we discuss stuff like this, because we bounce stuff off each other all the time, is her main thing is you have to realize, to your point, it doesn't matter when it's going to happen. It doesn't matter. You can't think when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It just, what point are you going to reach where you were? What point am I going to reach where I was? I can tell you because I did it last year. So you did it way back when and then had to go through it again. So you're going to go through it. You need to realize that all of us, if you're not finding ways to purge these things from your psyche, to look at the things that you socked away and take ownership of that, because that's the first thing. You need to change your mindset first, and you need to take ownership of
Agreed.
all the dumb shit that you've done, because it's not anybody else's fault. First and foremost, it's yours. And you have to see that stuff, and you have to realize that. And it's not beating yourself up. And I'm not saying you go and make yourself feel sad and bad about it, but you have to have the realization that it's there. I did it. I understand why I did it because I'm learning how to do that.
But it doesn't define me. It doesn't define me.
But then I let it go.
Yep.
Then I forgive myself. Because the only one holding on to that is you. That's who's holding on to it. The only one thinking about that and allowing it to rot your brain is you. And we learn that. It's not easy, as we've talked about. It's not easy, but you learn to start to recognize it now. You learn to start to see when that's coming now, I see it. When that starts creeping in my brain, I can see it. It doesn't get to a point where I'm over the top and have anxiety and stress flowing out of me, because my brain goes, hold on. I can see it. I recognize it for what it is, and I deal with it right there at that moment. That takes time.
Exactly. So it's funny, and you're a sports person. I'm a sports person. Use a sports analogy, right? We're so used to being on the defensive way of thinking, right? When are we going to be on the offensive way of thinking? Meaning, to your point, I have those negative feelings, the defensive feelings. Let me flip the script. I can acknowledge it, but let me now flip it in a positive way. Because think about the careers that we were in and you're still in. There's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of negativity in the outside world and then within the agencies. If you allow that to fester, what happens, right? We get cynical, we get jaded, we get frustrated, we get angry. That's toxic for all of us. And I just said something recently on a LinkedIn post. Even the most empathetic of people that are in these professions can fall victim to that. Fall victim to the feelings of hate, and that eats us from the inside out. So what I learned, Chris, I had to learn to become a human being again post my career. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I didn't realize some of the damage that was done. Now, I'm not suggesting that I had anything traumatic per se. There was violence. There was a lot of, New York City Police Department, I mean, one of the largest, if not the largest agencies in the world, you're going to get into stuff. The volume is there, right? But I feel that for me, a lot of the stuff that I struggled with was self-induced. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it was because the things that would happen within the police department while you're working carries over into your personal life. Just change the law enforcement career, no matter where you are. I don't care if you're in a 4-person agency, doesn't matter. It changes you in a way because you have to be a different person to protect yourself. In my opinion, you have to put up that shield, that wall of impartiality, of almost like I can't allow myself to feel almost. Now, I'm not saying that's good, but that's what we do. Now, my 55-year-old self, if I was talking to my 25-year-old self or my 35-year-old self, okay, I get it. You need that to go home at night. But what about a debrief after with your squad, with other officers to say, hey, you know what? We almost bought it tonight. Let's talk about it. What did we do well? What did we not do so well? And we got lucky. How do we feel? What are some of the emotions we're feeling? Let's dump that out. Let's get that out there. That to me is therapeutic and cathartic. We need to do more of that. I wish when I think about where I am now that I was more mindful of that. Now we did it in the little ways, and how we addressed it was mostly in the humor way, which is not necessarily bad, but I think we need to go beyond that. Kind of have those real conversations in a safe space, because you and I both know, Chris, when we hold that in, it's like taking a bottle of soda and shaking it up and not opening the cap, right? Because when you do open the cap, you see what happens, right? Those emotions have to go somewhere.
Well, that has to be that's where we kind of have to look at, and sometimes we may feel we're beating our heads against the wall, but it has to be a constant stream of people saying that that's where the culture has to change. That's where, and that comes from the top of every agency in the United States and abroad. Like, it's not even just here, everywhere. Any agency, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be fire, whether it be EMS, anything, that has to be a cultural shift and a choice that comes from the top. You know that as well as I do. Dealing with places that are. I mean, we can do that a little easier in smaller places because it's your group is a little more tight knit. Like smaller agencies, you have 20 or less people, that's kind of a little bit easier than some place that has thousands of officers. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible if the culture changes. And that's where that has to start. I think you're starting to see that shift. It's starting to happen. You see more stuff for officer wellness. You see more places that are engaging their departments towards helping others and giving people time. Heck, I know a department that gives their officers time to like take a nap during the day or have a quiet room. Like this is what's happening.
Really? Wow.
But if you look at it, if you do it the right way, it's probably very beneficial. But that's a cultural shift. That's having people that go, hey, they really care about how I feel. And now you open the door for the other things. You open the door for the people that are willing to say, hey, man, that call really bothered me. Can we have a chat about it? Or can I go just take a break or take a minute? Or can I just give me a second? Or like, you have to give people that ability to do that.
Chris,
and that's where we got to change.
If I could just add to that, and I agree with you, but make no mistake about it, there's a responsibility from the bottom up too. That's part of the cultural shift as well. Think about this, and we've been there. I'm sure it happens in your small department. I'm sure it happened in your previous department. People like to talk without knowing the full story. Words hurt, right? If someone's talking behind your back or saying something that's not true, are you going to confide in that person? Are you going to have a conversation with that person, especially if you're dealing with some tough stuff, maybe even personal stuff? We have a responsibility from the bottom up just as well. And I feel, and I just talked about this recently, be a leader within. And you'd be surprised that that subtle paradigm shift of setting the example, regardless of rank, can become contagious. And that's when I feel change happens. Because let's say, for argument's sake, the bureaucracy is the bureaucracy, and you're not going to change certain aspects of that bureaucracy, but you work within an organization, a unit, whether it be a precinct, whether it be in a squad, whether it be a small group of officers that come together and can help each other and have this open communication, that's a start. As
Hmm.
opposed to throwing our hands up and saying, you know what? Nothing's going to change. The bosses don't care about us. You make the change,
Sure,
right?
sure,
So I think it goes both ways,
sure.
if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, but I think a lot of that, when I say a cultural shift, I say when you have these, everything is cyclical. We know that. Everything kind of, when you can start a ball rolling the correct way, it becomes norm. And when you're trying to change that norm, what was the norm for us? Something would happen, you'd have that old grizzled sergeant who was your FTO or whatever, and you had a moment of looking like you were pale. You had a moment of something, and what's the first thing they do to you? What's the first thing they say to you?
Basically,
Suck it up,
suck it
dude.
up,
Move
rub
on.
some dirt on it, get back in the game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, of
so
course.
when I say the top down, I'm kind of more or less talking about that sort of thing, of you having to change that mentality of people, because
I
when you have
agree.
these new people coming in, you're molding them. You're giving them, the training of a lifetime. You're telling them how to survive in this world of shit, basically, is plain and simple. And if you have that guy, and don't get me wrong,
You sounded like Leonard there. You know who Leonard is, right?
trust me, do not get me wrong. That has served me well on occasion, but it's something that we need to kind of find that middle ground. And the people coming in nowadays, they're already halfway there, because they care more about their health and wellness than we ever did.
Yeah, they're more evolved. I would agree.
So you need to not take that away from them. I think that's where when we discuss that cultural shift, but it also, that middle area, that middle ground, those grizzled guys. And that's where I said it has to lead from the top, because it takes individuals. Nobody, the way people are. You know the way New York cops are. You know the way I know Philly cops. I know county cops, people from wherever. They're not going to, because you said this right off the bat. The do as I say and not as I do people. You can't be in my position and do that. You cannot do that. You have to be able to tell your people, hey, this is my story. I'm willing to tell it to everybody else. I'm going to tell it to you first. And that's what I did. Before I did anything else, I told it to them first. They're going to make a decision after that.
Sure, sure.
But you have to give those people that thought that, okay, it just opens that door, just that little smidge.
And that's a sign of strength, not weakness. And I learned as a good manager of people, and especially thinking about what you just shared with me in your position, even though it's a small department, it doesn't matter. You owned it, and you came right out and it addressed the elephant in the room, so to speak. And I'm pretty certain, without knowing, you gained a lot of respect by doing that, because most people in a position as such couldn't do that, in my thought.
Well, you also go so nobody's going to come up to me right away. I mean, Doug talks about this too. I mean, in his book, and in our discussions, and I'm sure he's had it with you. Is you're there no but nobody's going to come up to you right away and go, oh my God, thank you, you told me.
Of course.
I'm going to want to unload all this shit on you. No, but they know that moment, just that second, that possibility, that time when they are out of control or they can't handle something, they might look at you and go, he might understand exactly what I'm talking about. And that would be the difference.
Yeah, you open
Because
that
that
door.
would be that second. That would be the second that changes that thought, because now they at least know or have an inkling that I can go do something about this, and I don't believe he's going to be a hypocrite and come after me after it, because he had to go through the same shit. Now, I
Yes.
might not go to him, I might go to somebody else, but I might let him know, hey, I need a week. I need some time. I need to figure this out. And you have to be able to let people to do that. And you have to make the time to allow them to do that.
Agreed.
Because otherwise, we're never going to get it out of that. And I got a short time left, brother. I don't have long in this job. And I try to make the difference while I'm here.
Good for
And
you.
we hope in continuing maybe, after this time to keep talking about this. But we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep putting it out there. Because the right people sooner or later are going to listen in a certain spot, and it's going to change here. It'll change there. So
I've been having this conversation with a few different people, active on the other side. It's like reverse psychology in a way. And this is what I mean. If you're able to present something that's beneficial for the egos, right? Well, what's in it for me? How does this make me look good? And here it is. Whoever's listening, I hope you can take it, run with this. We talk about recruitment and retention, right? All the agencies now, they can't get good people. Now, if you're a forward-thinking department, regardless of size, and people realize that you take care of your personnel, I'm not saying you don't hold them accountable, but you have something in place that allows them to feel human, allows them to feel worth something, not just a tool to plug in, not just an instrument to use for whatever you're looking to accomplish within your jurisdiction, within your town, within your city, right? That you really care about your personnel. You're gonna recruit better. You're gonna retain your personnel, right? I mean, so now those ones that maybe are old school, or maybe they think this is a bunch of bullshit. If they think, well, hey, this is going to make me look good, and I'm going to be able to stay in my position because the municipality, the politicians that basically elect me, they're going to think I'm doing a good job. Doesn't matter what that person truly thinks about the cops or their subordinates. You almost, like they say, you get more flies with honey than with vinegar, right?
Sure.
So there's that piece too, and not to go off on a tangent.
No, you're good.
But it's another way to, maybe, like they say, to skin a cat.
No, you're right. You're right 100%. You have to find the ways that work. And if it's feeding somebody's ego by turning it around, then use it. Because if that's going to allow you to have a better agency, and I'm not saying fake them out. I'm not saying be disingenuous, because you're not. Allow them to see that side. Allow them to see the other side. And quite honestly, if you really think about it, if you've got people that have been in your department or that you've known have been in this job for 5 years or more, they got baggage. You've dealt with the same shit that I've dealt with. You're just deciding not to look at it yet. And it's okay. It's all right, because until you're going to get there and you're going to see it, because we all know that's what happens. We all know what you've been through. I said this in the last one. I know what you've been through, dude, because half the time I was standing right next to you. So I know what you've been dealing with. Or I've known you for 20 years. Or I've known you for 15 years. I know what your family life's been like. I know what your life's been like. And I know it's been hard. And I know you've had some problems. So when you're ready, just know I'm here. And that's pretty much all you can do, is let people know that you're there.
I wanted to bring something up because it's just popping into my head, and I know we've discussed this, and I think you might have even mentioned it when you first introduced me. So I started writing these funny police stories based upon my experience, and I'm bringing that up now, not because I'm looking to plug myself. No. What comes of it, I don't know. But the reason I'm bringing it up, Chris, it's amazing how you write this funny story, and I'll share it with former colleagues. I've shared these stories with non-law enforcement personnel, sometimes other first responders that were non-police, firefighters, if you could believe it, right? We have that thing with firefighters. But the consensus is it creates this level of comfort, right? Of camaraderie, even though they might not have been with me when this situation occurred. There's a common thread with experiencing something because it's the human condition, right? Us as first responders, we're dealing with people, and people could be funny. I mean, people could be horrific, but people could be funny too, right? And you and I both know first responders could be some of the funniest people that you encounter because part of the defense mechanism is to find humor in some of these tragic situations, right? Now,
Right.
I'm not suggesting that in my case that I have a morbid sense of humor. The things I write about are just funny things that I was part of, that I observed, or I had to. It's almost like Seinfeld for me. It's like my stories are about nothing, but they're kind of about something, right?
Right. Right.
I only share all this because I started sending these out to people that I had worked with. And now people I hadn't seen in years, we're far beyond our police career. And now we start laughing about this time in our lives. So you bring back that camaraderie piece. Before you know it, Chris, we're talking about deep topics like struggles and real stuff. In one particular case, I had someone on the phone crying, apropos to nothing about the story. They felt comfortable enough with me to share some of the things that they were struggling with. It had to do with a family loss, and I felt I was helping them. It was cathartic for both people. I
Right.
felt good because I was helping, I was listening, I was employing that active listening technique. They were able to unload some of this, and you almost hear it through the phone like this relief. So when I started realizing that, I'm like, I'm onto something here. This is something that I could continue and find my niche in a way in terms of how I speak to people out there, other first responders. So that's kind of
Right.
how it all came about.
No, that's awesome. And I've had the opportunity to read a couple. They are pretty good. I enjoy reading them. They're funny.
I got
I
more for
think
you. I got a couple of
I got
good ones.
that's great. That's great. I've already told you. I think you should get them all together and put a book together because I think it would be. I think people would enjoy it very much.
Thank you.
But I like the fact that Vin. I mean, we could go on for hours, but then people would get bored. So we're just going to have to do this again sometime.
Okay. I love it.
But as we move forward, dude, I love talking to you. I think you have some great views about things. I
I
like how
appreciate that.
you're authentic, and we've had plenty of conversations. And we will always continue to have more because I enjoy
Thank
speaking
you.
with you.
Same
But
here. I appreciate it, Chris.
I think that what we try to do and what we're going to always continue to try to do, and what you're doing with your coaching and with your mentoring and with you just being there for people, sometimes for anyone, I think I've started to see that sometimes that's enough because that's all people really want is to be heard and somebody to listen to them. So I'm going to give you an opportunity, Vin, to kind of close this bad boy out with a last whatever you want to talk about, and then we're going to let these people get going because after they listen to me and for an hour, they're like, "Damn, I got to get out of here."
I'd like to do a little Elvis, but maybe another time. So I would like to just say this for those people out there that are either still active or on the other side of a first responder career, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. If you're in a position where you have some sort of influence, use it to help others. And even if you feel you don't have the skills to maybe take an active role, make the referral. There's a lot of us out there that we truly want to give of ourselves to make a difference and to help. We wouldn't be doing it because it's not like we're making money. It's like we're running around and we're trying to, create this persona. These are real people that understand some of the places that some of people that are out there that are struggling with. And if you don't feel like you're getting it from your agency, there's other resources. And we want to be good people to provide that clarity.
Thanks, Vin. I appreciate you being here, my
Thank
friend.
you, Chris.
I always appreciate
Thank
talking
you
to
so
you.
much.
Guys, I want to say, like, I appreciate anyone who's listening. I thank you for listening to the Deep Blue Project. I thank you for giving us this forum to listen to what we talk about. The people that come on here have their genuine stories. They have the things that mean a lot to them, and they're here to help others. And that's the main key for all this. So I thank you very much. If you're out there and you're listening to us today and you need help, as we tell you all the time, please remember you are not alone. You are truly not alone. Reach out to someone if you want to. If there's not somebody near you you can reach out to, places like Copline. Reach out to 988 if you feel like you cannot handle anything more. Trust me, there are people out there that want to see you tomorrow. We know that. We've been there. You can get on the other side of this. You can find a way through this. And there are people that are willing to do that for you. So thank you for listening to us today. Thank you for joining the Deep Blue Project. I'm Chris Workman, and I will see you the next time. Take care. Love each other. Have fun. Thanks, Vin.
Thank you, Chris.
You've been listening to the Deep Blue Project. As a father, husband, friend, and someone who loves to chat about anything and everything, Chris brings over 3 decades of public service experience to the table. With a background in firefighting and law enforcement, along with degrees in criminal justice and behavioral science, he's seen it all, and he's learned a thing or two along the way. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on LinkedIn and X at Deep Blue Project. Find our website at deepblueproject.com. And to reach out, send an email to deepblueproject@outlook.com. Keep keeping it real, and we'll see you next time on the Deep Blue Project.